and hello, and welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. My name is Erica, and I am your host today. And today we are going to take a deep look at tackling a critical and sensitive issue, the rise of AIDS and HIV and other STDs, including syphilis within the Black community. Recent reports indicate that southern states are the epicenter of these outbreaks. A recent video from a Houston nurse in tears highlights the surge in cases she's witnessing. Additionally, Atlanta has hit a new record for AIDS and HIV within our community. Today, joining me, I have two women who are going to help me tackle this topic. We have the lovely Tiara Williams. She's a producer and actress. And then we have Athena Gardner, CPA of We Wealth Women. How are you ladies today?
Lovely, and so happy to be here with you today.
Yes. So I don't know if you ladies have seen the video with this young lady in tears about the crisis that she's been witnessing in Houston. And I know we're going to take a look at that footage, but just give me some insight as to, what it's like, seeing these numbers go up and being in the dating pool. And I know, Athena, we talked in previous weeks about, we're going to get back out here and start dating this year. Tell me, what kind of concerns do you have as it relates to that with these numbers increasing?
Personally, I don't have any concerns because I know what I am and am not going to do when it comes to sex and my sexual health. But in general, I remember having a conversation with my brother during the pandemic. And I said, I believe that these STDs and STI numbers are going to shoot through the roof because people are cooped up in their houses, not able to do that. And I think it's just going to be a surge of people trying to hook up again. I have some other thoughts as to why I think that is happening, but we'll discuss that further in the show.
Okay, great. Tiara, I'd like to hear your insight. How do you think that is, what it is like in the dating pool now with these numbers increasing?
Yeah, that puts some more poop and sewage and like little disgusting little floaties in the water that
Yeah.
makes it even scarier to date anyone, right? It's scary to date. And I think that something that's important, it doesn't help that we also have music to encourage and, listening to songs that encourage you to go out and just have sex with people. And, I think men are being influenced to run away from commitment and being with women and just one woman and have like situationships and, just hook up and hook down and do whatever and keep it moving without having any type of connection or commitment. And so it's troubling for me, especially being in the dating pool.
As we take a look at the way, and I hate to pull it in, but we're going to have to, looking at way, you talked about music and trends and all the different artists and everybody's basically bumping and grinding on stage. Do you think that that is attributing to some of the reckless behavior that people are exuding while dating and not vetting? Athena?
Well, I think, music is such a powerful, vibration, such a powerful tool that really does reflect the times going on. When you look at like the 60s and 70s, it was more so about empowerment and liberation. The 80s were kind of like, being free and all of that. So what we're hearing now does reflect the time. So if we're hearing more promiscuous music, I think it's encouraging and reflecting a culture of more promiscuity. And there are reasons behind that. So I do think that music is definitely not helping us in that regard.
Tiara, I know you're in the business. Do you think that some of the music could be attributing to some of the reckless behavior that young people are exuding with sexual activity?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about music is it's the only thing that can penetrate your subconscious without you giving it permission. Right? You can listen to something and you don't even know. Like, I mean, think about it. I mean, there's times when I listen to Lil Wayne and I'm driving on the highway and before I know it, I'm shooting up the steering wheel. Why? Because, it just, there's an energy attached to, for real. Like, I think I'm a thug and I'm a gangbanger and all the things because I'm listening to Lil Wayne. There's an energy that is being transferred from them to you, and you're listening to it over and over again. I mean, all you have to do is, there's a reason why they have baby making music. You can pop on some R. Kelly, and before you know it, it's popping wherever you are. So I think it's important to just realize that it's just one of those things that you have to be very careful of, and make sure that you're listening to things that are high vibrational and that's not encouraging you to, go out and shoot people, and listening to different, I mean, I believe that hip hop is responsible for a lot of black on black crime, to be honest. And so, of course, I believe music is responsible for a generation of, of promiscuity for sure.
And I don't want to be the one to target the younger generation. I really think we also want to focus on women that are middle age, the 50, 51s, and 55s and 60-year-olds. That is a huge demographic that has been impacted with HIV and AIDS, because most women, like myself, when we were in our 20s and 30s, the biggest fear we had, we didn't want to get pregnant. Didn't want to get pregnant, you weren't married, didn't want to get pregnant. And now a lot of women are going through menopause and they're like, woo, child, I'm funky, foot loose and funky free. I can get out here and do me. And it's like, they're hooking up with these young guys because, the older men can't keep up, and these young men are, leaving evidence of being behind. So women, menopausal women, 50 and up, be careful. We can be targets too. So it's very important that you don't put yourself out there.
So is that, so that's news to me. Is that a thing? Is women
That's
in
a
like their
thing.
50s like going through this, like, I just want to be free, and
Transformation. I think women, I don't have kids, but I know a lot of my friends, had kids young, in their 20s, and now their kids are grown. Some of them have grandchildren. A lot of people my age are retiring now, and a lot of things they didn't get to do because they were raising a family. Some people may be divorced, and now they're like, I finally get to be single. A lot of people went into marriages early. I know a girl that actually got married before we graduated high school. She got married. So there are a lot of people who are in their 50s that are finally getting the opportunity to see what it was like to be young, and in doing that, there's a naivety about going into that young pool, because the young people of today are not like the people we grew up with. It's a completely different scene. So the 90s were the 90s, and we are in the mid to going into the late 2000s. It's different out here. I am honest to say, it is not the same as it was in the 80s and the 90s. But what I'd like to do is we're going to run a video for all of you watching, and we're going to have a talk about that, Athena and Tiara. And I want all of you in the chat, jump in with the conversation with us. Don't be shy, because we want to hear what you have to say. So let's roll the tape.
Several patients coming in finding out that they're HIV positive, and y'all keep making these posts and these jokes, and it's not funny. Like, this shit is ruining.
Paying your bills on time raises your credit score, right? Wrong. In fact, this is one of the 3
people's lives from their early 20s to even as old as 50 years old. 100%. Stop playing. It's not funny.
Yes, it is.
It's not. It's nothing funny about it. And you want to know what's so crazy? I seen a video of this gay dude on TikTok. He's a viral dude, bragging about how he just moved to Houston and he just met somebody baby daddy, somebody trade, somebody thug drug dealer, and he let him the shit out of him first night because he grown and all of that, and he sent him on about his way. Y'all think this is funny?
Yes.
You know how many download men it is out here playing? It's not funny. Ladies, strap up, because these dudes is disgusting. Disgusting.
What are your thoughts?
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's scary. And I actually worked years ago when I wanted to work in healthcare and save the world. I worked for Passaic County Jail. I worked in the medical department. And what she's saying is true. You have a lot of men who are heterosexual that will step their foot into the pool of let me try. I remember there was a kid, he was arrested for petty drugs, 24 years old, and he ended up, this is a county jail, and he ended up housed with a guy that just so happened to have HIV, but he didn't know that there's no sign on the cell. And the guy somehow got him to convince him to have sex with him, and they did. And he ended up having to go get an HIV test because then once he found out, he was just astonished, like, well, why did you put me in here? And it's like, well, no, why did you do that? So I just want some feedback from you. We'll start with you, Tiara. What are your initial reactions of this video and hearing what this young lady had to say?
It makes me scared. I mean, because there's men out here that's not willing to live their truth, or they're just curious, or like I said, there's just, it's just like we live in a culture where anything can go, where men can um be with other men and then go home to their girlfriends and wives and like just be like identify as straight, even though that is definitely not the deal. So it just makes it scary because I think that there are a lot of people out here just not living their truths, and so you get caught up with a man who looks straight, whatever that looks like. And yeah, and you find out years later that he also had this like other side to him that you were not privy to. And unfortunately, I would just rather a man be honest and say like, I like boys sometime, like, or something, like just let a sister know that it's a thing that's inside of you. I mean, I think that's what I can appreciate about this age, as opposed to like 50 or 60 years ago, because people are willing to come out and say like, oh, I kind of have an affinity for men. I think, I mean, truth be told, nobody ever talked about this back in the day, but I mean, I think that a lot of those older men were maybe attracted to women or attracted to men, and in turn maybe used to beat their our grandmas or whatever. I'm just saying I can appreciate it, but I wish more people would just live in that truth.
Athena, how about you? What do you think about that?
Well, when I watched the video, I think that when you're on the front lines like a nurse and you're actually seeing the actual people this will affect and their reactions and their emotions, I think that she is expressing concern and lending compassion there. I didn't like. I know we were watching a parody of part of a video. There was a man on the side of the video, kind of making fun of her expressing compassion towards people who could be afflicted with HIV and AIDS, and it is a serious matter that affects our community, but all communities, to be honest with you, because sometimes I don't like how they just market this as like a Black only disease, and that is not true.
No.
What I would like to say about this topic is that we need to look at our behavior and what is beneficial. All right, what is beneficial around sexual practices. I know from my observations with men, knowing gay men personally, seeing the behind the scenes of that, seeing behind the scenes of the regular men, there is not, behavior wise, there is not a level of, what is the word I wanted to use? They're not as conservative around condom use and sexual and reproductive health as I think most women would like.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that more people should be asking, like, hey, before we're intimate, can we just go and get tested?
Yeah. I think so. And I think also I'm not a fan of casual hookups and just casual sexual relationships. So I'll put that out there. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're going to share your body with someone, I think that at least a discussion around sexual history. And if you're uncomfortable doing that, then you also have to ask yourself, why are you comfortable having sex with someone, the actual act, but not comfortable with having the conversation?
Right. If you can't, yeah, I agree with that. If you can't have, and I think we talked about that in another chat, you and I, If you can't have a conversation with someone, why are you laying down with them? Like, that just makes no sense. If you feel like, oh, I can't ask this person to wear a condom, or I can't ask this person to go get tested, then this person, you shouldn't be in this person's company at all. This is your warning that this is not a safe space for you. Clearly, this is not a safe space, and you need to move on. What I really want to move into now is the demographics of this. It seems like the southern states are getting really hit hard with these numbers. Now, I know the New York area is ranking at number one, with California following up. But if you take a look there, if you look, there's Miami, DC, Texas, Atlanta. You have all of these southern states. You have a couple. You have the one Midwest. Why do you think, Tiara, that the South is getting hit so hard with these numbers?
I know there was conversations around poverty and not having access, and not having access to sexual health and all of these things that I saw while looking up this topic. But it seemed like the biggest thing was like poverty, and like poverty can cause a lot of things, like a lot of disparities, right? We know that. And so, I'm going to say that's the number one thing. I can't really think of anything else right at this moment because I'm just kind of so wrapped up in it. But like, I would say, poor people make poor decisions. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing I keep thinking in my mind, like, unfortunately, and the lack of education around this situation.
Okay. Athena, why do you think the South is being hit hard? I know you live in one of the southern states. Why is it so? Why is it just popping up out of the blue over in the southern states?
I saw Miami on the list and I was like, I am not surprised. I am not surprised. Because those of you know, I live in South Florida. Not in Miami though, but I'm not surprised. Well, what I will say is this: when you look at data and statistics, right? Because I think that can also be interpreted in ways. Data and statistics can be interpreted in several ways.
Mm-hmm.
What I understand about the South is 50% of the Black population in the U.S. lives in the South. So it would make sense that most of the cities that are hit the hardest are southern cities because most of us are concentrated there in comparison to the north, east, west, and all of that. So that makes sense to me. I don't think necessarily that the southern states are more promiscuous or people in the South are more promiscuous or anything like that. I think it's just Black people are just concentrated more in the South. So it will make sense about half of the list, since about 50% of the Black U.S. population is in the South, half the list would have cities in the South.
I'd like to focus on pair this up with what you're saying. We have Joe Womack. He said, when Houston hit a population growth, the numbers went up. Do you think, Athena, that that's from people moving from one end of the earth to the other side of the earth and, going here and go there? Do you think that's because people are changing their demographics so often?
I think, it also doesn't surprise me. I can keep saying this. It also doesn't surprise me Houston's number ran up because of the rates. Because, like I said, if you're looking at when these city populations increased, it was during and post-pandemic. Houston, Texas, and Florida, which were certain states that experienced a population boom because we had very, very loose restrictions around COVID. Honestly, on one hand, it was kind of good because I still had my freedom. All I had to do was wear a mask. Nothing was really shut down. So a lot of people moved there. So as more people move to a different area, they're going to take those same behaviors and practices there. So it doesn't surprise me. Houston, Atlanta, Miami, post-pandemic, post when people are locked up, they couldn't meet or date people. They couldn't have that physical contact. They're probably, hormones raging and they're just ready to, explore sexually. Then those numbers would reflect that increase in activity.
Wow. It's a shame because, like I said in previous broadcasts, I wasn't here for most of the pandemic. I was on ships and I didn't see anything. But Love Duck 41 says, yes, Louisiana, which had a high amount of AIDS, HIV, moved to Houston due to flooding. So
I
that
actually wanted to say that because I was one of the people that moved from New Orleans to I actually moved to Houston before I moved to Los Angeles, right after Hurricane Katrina. That's actually how I got to Los Angeles. So I can confirm that a lot of things happened when after the stress of Hurricane Katrina. A lot of people did. They went to Houston. We all went to Atlanta. Literally, New Orleanians were all over the country. So I mean, I can confirm that who people who were infected took their infections to those places.
So now, what do we do as a community when we know that we have, newbies that have moved into town. We know people are relocating here from different places. We're not familiar with these folks, and they're in our dating pool. How do you suggest people, especially young women, handle themselves? Because I'm starting to see, even though women in their 50s and up, they're mixed up in these numbers too, but young women, because there's another video of a young woman who is in heartbroken because of something that happened to her. How do you get young women to stand up for themselves? Because I think that there's this fear of, oh my God, I want to be accepted and I want to be liked, and they don't know how to stand up for themselves. Tamara, what can you say to young women when it comes to dating and standing up for themselves to protect their body?
Yeah, I think we have to teach women the opposite of what Sexy Red and what the opposite of what Megan Thee Stallion and all of these women who they are looking up to are teaching them that it's okay to use your body and be objectified. And I know that's not like sexual liberation is like a thing right now, right? Women want to feel like they have the power over themselves, and I feel like that's trickling into our youth. Like they're so impressionable. They are so impressionable. They think that that is the way, using sex as a tool to get with men and keep men and all of that. And I think that unfortunately, just like we're conditioning women that they are not objects, but these young women to like lean so much on sex and use it, we can condition them the other way. Really push sexual education and let them know what's on the other side of twerking. Not like twerking on a man. What's on the other side of twerking on somebody? What's on the other side? You see the glamorous part, like, oh, sex feels good, it's good, it's cool, it's okay to have sex with different people, situationships. You listen in the songs, it's like it's cool to have a situationship, it's cool to have a boyfriend number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and unfortunately the youth are being influenced the most from that. Of course, us at this point is like, I'm not having no situationship with nobody, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. We're kind of in a place where that is. But like when you're a teenager and you're not as developed and you haven't developed that frontal cortex, you can't say, like, you can't make those decisions, and so I would just say condition young women and these teenage girls to see the other side of their decisions. That like AIDS is on the other side of their decisions. Syphilis, chlamydia, things that are not curable, herpes. One of my really good friends is living with herpes, and she's lived with it since we were teenagers, and it's so interesting. Obviously, like, she was able to still have a husband and all of that, and but there's so many things that comes with that you have to be like, you always have to use a condom, and you always have to like be safe, and when it's just like the ugly side of it that you
Yeah,
don't get
yeah,
to see. And so even with that, I think, he was like, she had heard, because we were teenagers, like, oh, I heard he got something, and he was like, no, I don't got nothing, they got me twisted, or whatever it was. We were young.
yeah.
And he ended up having it, and he intentionally gave it to her, right? Like on some, just to be vengeful.
Let me,
I'm not sure, like, why would somebody do that,
that,
but it
that
happened. And so now she's been living a life 25 years later, or 20 years later, or whatever it's been. She still has this thing. So just teaching women that that is a thing.
That was my next question. I'm just curious, what would make someone do that to intentionally infect someone else? I don't understand that concept and thinking. Athena, what do you think that stems from?
Selfishness. Are
Hey,
are you And this is a thing, right? Because there is the, I guess, sanitized, correct way of saying, both men and women are responsible for their own reproductive and sexual health. But I like to sit in the realm of reality. And unfortunately, ladies, I do think we have to be the ones to enforce certain things sexually, because what I've noticed with men is like when they get in that zone is like they don't care, anything goes until like what they call post-nut clarity kick in, and then that's when their common sense come back. Mm-hmm. So ladies, you have to be the one to insist on these things. When it comes to now, to intentionally give someone with a STD or STI, by the way, is a crime. So I want to put that out there because I think people think they can just do whatever they want.
Yes.
If you are diagnosed with something that is a disease that's transferable and you fail to disclose that, that is a crime.
It is a crime, and it is considered assault with a deadly weapon.
Right. So ladies, that is information if you ever come across a situation like that, and fellas, that's information that you need to know as well. I do think that what has also further encouraged, and I don't like to judge people for their sexual choices, sexual habits, what they like, what they do. It's really none of my business. But what I do think is that with the invention of medications such as PrEP, people think that, oh, I can just take PrEP and be fine, not fully understanding that you could still contract a disease. You can still contract HIV and AIDS, and also the other ones. So what has happened too, because I have friends with doctors and nurses, there have been surge in like syphilis, and there's eye syphilis now when
and Athena, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about those other areas. I want to talk about the other diseases, the syphilis and the herpes and the chlamydia. I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But before we jump into that topic, I just want to remind you all that this is Fly Nubian Money. And if you want to catch us and watch and tune in Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock and get those alerts, please text Queens, QUEENS, at 87948. And please don't forget, Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. You can tune in, like I said, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock, and all you have to do is search for Fly Nubian Money on Spotify to catch all of these empowering discussions. Now, also, if you're a queen and you want to get that money right and set up your legacy wealth, make sure you go over to flynubianmoney.com, and there's a ton of financial resources and also some courses that you can take advantage of to get you on track. And if you want to be queen for a day and sit on the panel, we would love to have you. You can email us at info@realvirtual.net. That's REEL virtual.net. We would love to hear from you and get you on the panel and hear what you have to say and your contribution to the conversation. Now, back to Athena. Now, there's also a resurgence. We were talking about HIV and AIDS, but there's also a resurgence of other STDs that are happening. There's syphilis, there's gonorrhea, there's chlamydia, there's all of these things. And people think that, it's just in your genitalia. But herpes, for instance, can actually become a lesion on the face. It can be in the mouth. It can be in the eye. Anywhere where there's a portal, this can happen. Before we really, focus in on that, I think we do have a video of a young lady who shared what's going on with her. And I really want to get that video in, and then we're going to talk more about those other STDs.
You're sexually active, and you know that you have an STD, then you need to inform people of that. Because when you don't, and you infect that person, you are changing their life forever, and they are making a decision that they do not know. Like, this shit is going to change the rest of my life. And there's nothing I can do. And I'm embarrassed. And I'm humiliated, and I feel so stupid. I feel so stupid for letting someone take advantage of me in a moment of weakness. But I I did not consent to this. And I'm going to get justice for myself. Because there have been so many times in my life where I haven't. And this is not fair. And I refuse to let anybody else feel like this.
That video is really hard to get through. It's hard to watch. But there's something that young lady said that just got my attention. She said, I'm going to get justice for myself because there are so many times before that I did not. And this right here is the heart of the conversation, because when you protect yourself at all costs, you really don't care about the feelings of the next person because you're protecting yourself. When you're going into relationships, when you're going into the dating pool, when you're going into anything where you have to share your energy with other people, if you have to break a heart, or sometimes you have to break your own heart to save your behind, then that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. Athena, give me your thoughts on this video and what you saw.
I saw that video months ago because I remember it was circulating because she's an OnlyFans girl, and her page, she focused on breastfeeding her son and towards men who had that fetish. But it was very unfortunate that had happened to her. And when I did see that video at the time, I remember thinking that that feeling is what we need to remind ourselves about, how the seriousness of this, because you are taking a risk when you do open up your body in that way to someone. And unfortunately, we do not live in a world or reality where fairness and righteousness is just always up to on the table. There are people who do not care, that will bring you in their misery with them, that will expose you to something as well. Another interesting thing, and I'm glad that she knows that she can seek justice, because I think a lot of women did not know or do not know that that is considered a crime and that they can seek justice on that. What I will also say, which is curious to me and interesting to me, and this is kind of like behind the curtain information, but I noticed that women will avoid men who disclose that they have things, right? But I noticed men will still be with women who have things, right? So it's not necessarily a deal breaker in that way as it is to us. So I also feel like because that is the case, men don't want to necessarily disclose that because it will turn them away from the sexual opportunity or relationship opportunity. So when Sarah was talking, mentioning that her friend actually contracted something and she still ended up married, that didn't surprise me, because men are less judgmental and discriminating against women who have STIs.
Do you think that's because a lot of men are not focused on their health? I mean, with a lot of men, they're not active with going to the doctor. I mean, you see now, they have Amazon Health now where you can actually see a physician via chat and get a prescription without having to go see a doctor. It's like the Jetsons are coming to life, but unfortunately, you're telling a bot, an AI, or maybe a real person what your symptoms are, and they're giving you a prescription, but it could be unrelated to the fact that you are having an STD. What do you think about that? How do you think we can combat that?
I think that with technology, right, and I would consider medications like PrEP, telehealth, different things, it creates an illusion that there's a certain amount of safety in regarding sex that doesn't truly exist. It is always a risk. You are always vulnerable. You could be a faithful man, a faithful woman, doing, having the confines within your relationship, and your partner step out, catch something, and bring it back to you. So that's why I've always never been judgmental based on background, person, or situation, because you can live a very straight and narrow life sexually and still get clipped So that's why I think that we need to do the best that we can. We need to still treat this in serious manner. Casual sex and promiscuity and all kind of different kind of relationships are just being promoted because people want to explore freedom. But I think we need to explore discipline, because in the excess of exploring freedom, you actually lose it.
Athena, you actually made a point that some of these STDs can be contracted in other ways other than sex. It could be something as minor as using a public bathroom and sitting on an unclean toilet. It could be going out to a restaurant and you're using forks and knives and things that have not been properly washed. So it is important that when you're out, when you're, engaging outside of the confines of your home, that you take extra steps, because these things can happen. We had a comment from, I think it's pronounced Dow, Dowe. You asked something in the chat, and you said, what is HSV2? That is it's herpes simplex, HSV1, and HSV2, the virus. So that, hopefully that answers your question. Athena, you wanted to chime in?
And I wanted to add some clarity. So herpes simplex 1, and you guys can tell I study a lot around sex. Herpes simplex 1 is the one that's a cold sore. Herpes simplex 2 is the one that you really don't want to really have. That's the herpes elsewhere.
Okay. So simplex 1, it's more of like it's
every once in a few years when you get a cold sore, that little bump, that's what simplex 1 is. However, if you are if simplex 1 is active, right? If it's active at this point in time, and you go and do other things, I think it can turn into simplex 2. I think, check on that, but simplex 2 is the herpes where you have to take all that precautions and stuff, and either one, both of them, once you have it, it's not going anywhere unless you call Dr. Sabi, but he's no
longer here. I want to go into this other topic, Tiara. I remember being in elementary school, being in high school, which is, I'm dating myself, but I'm just curious, are they having sex education in school like they used to? Is this still a topic? Is this still something that's being drilled into kids? The repercussions of premarital sex, the repercussion of sex without safety, just the repercussions of sex at all. Tara, do you know anything about what's going on in the schools? Or for you in the chat, if you have kids, drop us a comment and let us know, is sexual or health being taught in schools?
Well, I have a 13-year-old, so they're definitely I get to see all the things through her and actually teach her. Her father and I are very avid about teaching her what sexual education just in general. But so yes, they are being introduced to certain things in school. Definitely, there are trainings and teachings and all of that, but we double down on that when we're at home. I'm making sure that she's watching all the things, not just like sexual education, but on the flip side, we've watched STD videos. We've watched videos about sex trafficking. We've watched videos about like meeting a man online, or if you're in a chat, what to do. I've showed her videos like, I'm Chris Hansen. Like, we watch stuff like that just so she can know the game of what this looks like. But I also, just before we go back, I wanted to just respond to this video because I didn't get a chance to do that. And I wrote some things down in my handy dandy notebook. But what I noticed is that she said that I didn't consent to this. And what I want young girls to understand is when you lay down with anyone, you are consenting to whatever it is that they have, whether you're consenting to the sex, but you're also consenting to whatever comes along with that, unfortunately. And then, she said, I caught the same thing that you said, Erica, when you said so many times in my life, I didn't get justice. Like I haven't spoken up or advocated for myself, basically. So I'm an advocate now. Unfortunately, that sounds like trauma to me.
Yes.
It sounds like, she's had to deal with things. Whether it's sexual trauma or just like not being properly raised at home. just all the things that she didn't learn, things that had, it sounds like maybe she struggled with esteem, which is something that I also try to teach my daughter, and where her father and I are constantly trying to
Yes.
just like pour into her, because it's so important that our young girls have self-esteem. That way
And
you'll let a man, if not, you'll let a man tell you whatever. He'll
yeah,
tell you whatever and you'll go for it, or you'll feel like you have to do it. You're laying in the bed with him, you want to tell him to put on a condom, but you're like scared that he might flip out, or you don't want to be you don't want to be you don't want to be
get them up the
you
back.
don't want to cause conflict. You don't want to be confrontational, or you think it'll be confrontational. So those are things that I've noticed, and that's what I noticed with the video. It's a young lady that struggled, and she said that she didn't consent to it, and I'm a little torn about that. I feel what she's saying, and I feel my heart feels for her, but I really wish that she would have had the tools
Yeah.
before she started laying down with anyone, and knew what the repercussions could look like.
And unfortunately, I remember someone saying she has an OnlyFans page, and there's a lot that happens on OnlyFans. And I remember when I was in LA, I remember vividly there was I had a client, and his daughter was graduating high school, beautiful young lady, and she had a paid in full scholarship to run track. And he said to me, he said, my daughter came home last night and said she doesn't want the scholarship, that she wants to do an OnlyFans page. What is that? And I turned around and I'm like, okay, first of all, that lets me know you are completely disconnected from your kid. And second of all, if she'd rather do OnlyFans and take an opportunity to further a career in her education at no cost to you or to the family, we have a huge problem. Do you think pages like OnlyFans are creating problems and adding to the issues that we're having with this STD? Tiara, I see you nodding heavily with that. You want to jump on in here?
Yes. 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 I think OnlyFans, I think porn. Unfortunately, our kids are watching porn way earlier. They're seeing the glow up of OnlyFans and how much money you can make from it. So I think that's the unfortunate part. It's like at this point you can earn more on OnlyFans than you can going into a job and working 40 hours. Athena said that this young lady was like showing herself breastfeeding her child for people that had fetishes around that, which I guess isn't too bad, but I wouldn't let my daughter do that. So that tells me, like, where's her mama? She's so young. Like, where's her mother? Where's her father? Where's somebody saying, like, yeah, I feel you, but we're not doing that. You need money? Let me see. Let me make sure my daughter has skills. I think that's the. It's like all of those conversations. And I'm gonna end on this because I can go on and on and on. I was having a conversation with my daughter yesterday, and we were talking about the spirit of like what if you expose yourself to certain people, they carry different spirits. And I was telling her straight up, I met a man who had a spirit. He struggled with the spirit of lust. I told her this just last night. I said, and you know what? I found myself thinking about sex way more than I would have. And at the time, I told him, hey, I'm practicing celibacy. I have conversations like this with my daughter. My daughter knows I've been celibate for years, and I share that with her. And why I've chosen to be celibate, and why, because, like I said, the pool has pee and sewage and all the things. Obviously, there's diseases floating around, all the things. So I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna just chill, right? But I had these conversations with my daughter. But I told her, when you're around certain people, I was talking to this young man, and he was telling me things like, yeah, I mean, I had sex with a woman that has sex with 300 people, and you want me to have sex with you?
And
You know
what
what I mean? Like,
people
and it just
understand,
told me about him. And then he was like, yeah, my ex-wife, her and I used to swing. So if you're open to that, I was like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna swing, right? I don't, oh, that's energy. That's energy, it's spiritual. Like, and people don't, I think that's the biggest thing in this culture that I don't like. People don't see, without all of this flesh, we are spirits. Whether
yes,
you want to take it to however you want to take it, but we are spirits, baby. And so I don't want nobody's dusty son giving me spirits that I wasn't looking for. Right. So I have been thinking about sex way more. And
mhm,
it after a couple months, I felt like he was like kind of sexually manipulating me,
yes,
making me feel embarrassed that I decided to be celibate, trying to demonize it. Oh, I mean, you still talking to Jesus about your celibacy? I mean, you must not be a freak then, because I mean, people that want to have sex have sex. I mean, we grown, and he was still putting pressure on me. So I told my daughter, who, if I'm being transparent, one of her friends showed her porn. And so she started watching porn at 13. And so we struggled with that and I only knew it because I caught a text message where she doesn't have a phone anymore, her talking to somebody else, and she sounded like she had been watching it. And she said somebody at school showed it to her. And then ever since, she had kind of just like, no, I've been watching it all the time. She was like, well, not all the time, like just 4 or 5 times. And so I'm saying all of that to say that we just got to watch over our babies. If you
Yes.
got nieces, if you got, it's like at this age where at 13, when parents that are not watching their children, because I
Yes.
don't expose my daughter to all of that, she's being shown it at school. And so that was an issue, so I'm just saying, because I don't know what question you asked me, but that's the answer that I wanted to give. I wanted to make sure you understood. So just make sure you're talking to your children, and you are talking to them about sex, and you're talking to them about spirits and other people who are struggling with sex, who want to put that energy into your children or you.
Yes, because the only way a spirit or energy can live is it has to have a host,
Yes,
and
dear.
it needs to spread. And it's starting when what goes from person to person to person to person to person, it latches on. And keep in mind, when you are sleeping with someone, when you are having sex with someone, you are having sex with them and everybody they had sex with and everybody they had sex with. So if somebody's had sex with 300 people or 400 people, guess what? You're now doubling because now you're taking on the energy of them, the 300, and then the other 300 that those 300 dealt with. So you have to be mindful. What are you getting into when you open up your portal of your body? If you and I want to talk to new brides, everybody's talking about, it's my marriage season, I'm my kingdom spouse, and this and that. I'm getting married on Friday, and we getting married on Saturday. While you getting married on Saturday, could you escort his behind over to the doctor's office and draw some blood and just
That's
to find
right.
out what is going on? Because
That's
you have
right.
a lot of men out here, especially women that are in their 50s, a lot of men out here that are looking for a hospice nurse, and he may just be trying to get on your health insurance, sis, so we just gonna keep it 100.
Mm.
So with that, welcome to Fly Nubian Money. .com. If you want to keep up with the queens and join us on a daily basis, all you have to do is text Queens, QUEENS, at 87948 so that you can get an update as to when we are going live. And please don't forget that Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock. And you can search Fly Nubian Money on Spotify to catch all of our empowering discussions. Now, don't forget, ladies, if you are a queen and you want to get that money on track, or you want to get your wealth on the go, and you want to leave a legacy, come on over to flynubianmoney.com and try some of our free financial resources. We have a ton of courses that can really set you on track and honestly give you an opportunity to sit down with your family and talk about some great stuff about legacy and maybe starting some businesses for your kids. Also, if you want to be queen for a day, all you have to do is email us right here at info@realvirtual.net. We would love to have you on the panel and to hear your input and what you have to say on exciting topics like this. Woo, y'all got me sweating in here. It is so hot. I'm on vacation.
That's hilarious.
This topic is really, it's a handful because we are going to see, because these numbers are going to go up and up and up. As you can see, these are the stats for Black women diagnosed with HIV. 57% of women diagnosed with HIV are Black. And Athena, I want to know, why do you think that is? Why is it Black women are at the brunt of poor health and stigma and just being infected and having health challenges all the time? Why do you think that is?
Okay, so this Black women are affected by this disproportionately in comparison to other women because of a lot of factors. So there are the low socioeconomic factors. There is the lack of education and resource factor. But there also is, when we look at the statistic, when it comes to men, Black men have the highest rates of STD and STI too in their category. So most of us are having sex with each other. So that is why that happens.
You make that sound so gross.
I know, but
you make that sound so gross.
No, but that's what it is. We're having. Both sides are having sex.
Gross. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Athena. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Have you all seen some of these TikToks where you have these young people? There's a guy I saw on TikTok the other day. He said, yes, I do have 2 STDs. No, I'm not going to tell you that I have it. And if you're sleeping with me, that's on you. It's like, now, you see, now, if I'm stumbling across this TikTok, I don't live where this young man lives. But if I'm seeing it and then it's being spread all over, and then somebody's actually sleeping with him, and then looking at him, I'm confused as to why somebody's sleeping with him, because he looks like he hasn't bathed.
Mm-hmm.
Like he hasn't bathed.
And I know the argument too is that these Black women are just having sex with the same one man. But I don't care what nobody got to say. Men tend to be more promiscuous and sexually adventurous than women, as much as they like to talk about body count and all these other things. So an infected man would spread that disease much further than an infected Black woman. So I know a lot of people might give me flack for this, but it's because we're having sex with men who contracted the disease and are more prone to be sexually promiscuous. And that's what it is.
Well, no, I'm inclined to agree with you. Like I said before, I worked on ships. I was a cruise director for 3 years, and I worked with a lot of men that were from, various countries that had full-fledged families at home. However, they had what was called a ship wife. They had a ship wife. Now they had their families at home, wife, children, beautiful estate, because, we made good money on ships. But they had a woman on board that was considered their ship wife. Now, let's say you're someone's ship wife and your contract ends before his does. So guess what? When you go home, he has another what? He has another ship wife. And the cycle continues until his contract is up and goes home. There were also cases where cruise ships are considered floating cities, where everything is on your city and you're just at sea. There were times when you look up and see the gynecologist there, and I thought my first contract, I said, oh, that's great, you have the GYN come in. And the hotel director said, no, there's an outbreak on board. So whenever you would see the gynecologist on board, that meant that there was some sexually transmitted disease outbreak on board. So yes, I agree with you, Athena. Men are, unfortunately, the culprit of what's going on. But I do want to go back and take a look at the stats that we were looking at and get some insight on those stats. Why HIV rates are higher for Black women, social and economic factors. Athena, you talked about that. Poverty and lack of access to quality health care. Yeah. Heterosexual transmission, a huge issue. There's some people who are walking around positive and have been positive for years, and they don't know. Then they get into relationships or decide to finally settle down with the one, but now they're transmitting. And then here we have the information on HIV diagnoses in Black communities. Black men tend to have higher rates of concurrent sexual partners compared to other racial ethnic groups. Wow. So it's so important, ladies, as we look, or everyone in the chat, it's important that we look at these numbers. And then when we go home and talk to our partners and start having open dialogue and real conversation about what is actually going on. Don't be afraid to have these conversations. If you've met someone and, your gut is telling you something, your body will never lie to you. Your body will tell you, run. It will come in the form of a leaf falling. It can come in the form of, butterflies in your stomach. It can be anything, but pay attention to you, get to know you. That's why I always say vet first, then date. Start vetting, because just because, the person looks great on the exterior, aesthetically they look good. But, when you get down to the rooter, to the tutor of who they are, this is not somebody you want to be with. Yes, Jacob Taylor says disclose, transparency equals safe love. Yes, you have to be transparent. And in order for you to be transparent, you have to take care of yourself and be honest with yourself. Yes, Sierra, what do you want to say about that?
I was just about to say I saw a comment from Norman, and it's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to save it for my last thought, but I just wanted to live here for a second. So, so Terry obviously has been on the show, in the comments saying that she has been celibate for 10 years. And this is a response. And I think that, it's interesting that people make decisions to be celibate for different reasons. It doesn't always mean trauma. Sexual trauma is a thing in our community, and I think women are hurt from, but we don't necessarily know if that's Terry's situation. Like, a lot of Black women are just opting out of the drama. I'm not saying I'm going to be, abstinent or celibate forever. That's not my intention. I just think it's important to let people do their thing. Like, we don't have to shade Terry because she wants to be celibate for 10 years or however long she wants to. It doesn't mean she's traumatized. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with her. It means that she's made a decision. To me, it says something about her being disciplined.
Absolutely. And I'd like to chime in on that. I celebrated 4 years on June 20th. So if we're going to be transparent here, and I did that for me. I had a bad breakup and I just said, you know what? I need to stop. I need to reset and I need to focus on me. I wanted to take
Yes.
care of me. I didn't feel like giving of myself to someone else. I didn't feel like, and I feel like if I'm in a relationship, I need to be completely present. And I felt like after that breakup, I wouldn't be completely present for whoever I started dating again. So I said, you know what? I need to just fall back, focus on me so that I can be completely present with me so that I know how to be completely present for someone else. So,
Goodness.
yeah.
Wait, did Terry say she's not into men though? Wait a minute now, Terry. I don't know what's happening, but I'm seeing other. It's just going up in the chest. Okay, she says she's not into men though. That's another conversation. Listen, people can do. My point is, people can do what they want to do. If Terry don't like men, then Terry don't like men. Like,
But
that's what
that
she.
doesn't mean she's not abstaining. She can still practice celibacy, and celibacy to be celibate and to abstain from sex is abstaining from sex. Period. Whether it's a man or a woman. Let's be clear.
No, Terry said she didn't say that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna get caught up in these comments. Anyway, I was just advocating. I just wanted people to know that it's not always negative. Like you said, Erica, I agree with you. I decided to be celibate because I wanted to also couple that with going to therapy and like just learning about myself and like, what I like and what I don't like and
Yeah.
what men to look for and not look for. And, it's all of that. And sometimes you got to pause.
And sometimes you just have to pause. I just wanted to be by myself. And I think that's okay. Whatever it is that you decide to do for you, that's a betterment of you, that's going to make you a better person. You have to do that so that, because change starts with you. Okay, we have one more list of stats that I want to take a peek at. And if anyone needs help, if you need information, please, these websites can help you. Go to your local health departments, community clinics. They offer low cost or free HIV and STI testing and referrals to care. Black AIDS Institute at blackaids.org. Sister Love Inc. at sisterlove.org. Positive Women's Network, USA at pwn-usa.org. And last but not least, AIDS Healthcare Foundation at aidshealth.org. Oh my goodness, what a interesting topic today. We're going to be closing out. I want to thank everyone for watching. And I just want to get closing remarks from both Tiara and Athena. Closing remarks from you and to let people know where they can find you. Athena, we'll start with you. What are your closing remarks and how can people keep up with you?
All right. It's 2 p.m. on Friday. It's 95 degrees. Say no to casual sex and focus on money. What I will want to say is this. We both need to be accountable on both sides. I do think men need to be more accountable and practice more sexual discipline. And I think women need to also understand that regardless of how a man approaches himself, that you need to also take account of your sexual discipline as well. And with both of us would do what we need to do, it would actually reduce the problem and make effective change and actually decrease these staggering numbers. My name is Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and wealth coach. You can find me at wewealthwoman.com. I currently released a free course preview of my latest course, The Goddess Guide to Money. So if you're a woman who's looking to level up on your financial journey and create your own wealth, you can find me at wewealthwoman.com.
Thank you, Athena. Tiara Williams, Mom of the Year. What are your closing thoughts? And where can people find you?
Yeah, so I just want everyone to stop and think, whether you're a woman in her 50s looking for love again after divorce or bad relationships, or if you're an empty nester or whatever it is, just like have your eye on the swivel. Like stay woke. Don't just look. My grandmother used to say everything that glitters isn't gold. And so we want to make sure that we're not allowing these men at every age to take our gold and turn it into to rust. You don't want a rusty JJ, right? You want to make sure it stays golden. So ladies, I just encourage you to if you need celibacy, if you then do that. If you need to, I just encourage, if you're going to have sex, just make sure that you're vetting a man and paying attention to and just paying attention to your sexual health. It's so important, because men are sometimes, men are out here and they're fine, but sometimes those fine men are carrying something that could literally kill you. So you just want to be woke. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. That's MSBLACK Hollywood. I can be found at Miss Black Hollywood on all social media platforms. I also believe that at the baseline of every successful business is storytelling, and I help clients do just that for their business. You can reach me at www.realvirtual.net. That's REEL, like a movie reel, virtual.net.
Alrighty, thank you, Tiara. I like the fedora too. I'm loving the hat.
Thank you.
Loving the hat.
It's my smooth criminal.
All right, everyone. My name is Erica. I have been your host for today. My closing thoughts are: I am a woman of a certain age. I'll be 51 this year. I can't believe it. Time really moves fast. But what I will say is, for women that are in this age category, take care of yourself. I know we all want the opportunity to get married. I know time for all of us that are, 70s babies that graduated in the 90s. Yeah, time really did go by fast. And you know what? Take the time out to get to know you. Abstinence and celibacy, whether you do it for religious precepts or just mental precepts, sometimes it's good to just do it so you can get to know who you are. As women, we spend a lot of time investing our time and energy into the assurance and success of other people that we completely forget about us. And that is an opportunity when you abstain and you're celibate, where you can put all that energy and focus into you, and you can just heal, or just, if nothing else, just not have to be bothered. My name is Erica Lewis. I am the author of Faith in Transition, and I can be found on all socials as Miss Erica Renee. I want to thank all of you for watching. I want to thank these lovely ladies for tuning in. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you all. Yes, Miss Terry Wilson, thank you. Thank you for engaging with us. And I know you watch kind of daily, and we thank you. We appreciate that. We appreciate all of you in the chat with your insight and participating with us. I want you all to have a great, amazing remainder of the weekend, and stay cool, because I am burning up out here on vacation. So you all stay cool, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.